One of the mistakes that I take responsibility for was I never really thought about what kind of relationship I really wanted. And I think a pattern in my life was allowing myself to be led into relationships and putting others first without even being clear on what I myself wanted for whatever reason. There's a number of reasons why people stay in unhappy and unhealthy relationships. I always say I got my best education in the trenches. I know deeply those feelings of rage and injustice and despair. And so that connects us to our clients on a very deep level. Just because you're successful in other areas of your life, that also makes you less likely to ask for help. If you're not okay, your family's going to be harmed. So that's why it's so important to get help and to ask for it and to not be ashamed.
Healthy relationships don't happen by accident. They are built on trust, respect, honest communication, and the freedom for both people to be fully themselves. Unfortunately, not every relationship is built on those foundations. Sometimes unhealthy dynamics develop so gradually that we don't recognize the warning signs until we are deeply entangled. And when children are involved, the stakes become even higher. In this conversation, we explore why communication is the foundation of every healthy relationship, the red flags that can signal emotional abuse or coercive control, and the green flags that create safety, trust, and mutual respect. We also talk about the importance of modeling healthy relationships for our children. My guest, Lisa Johnson, is a high conflict divorce strategist, certified domestic violence advocate, and educator. Her own journey through a lengthy and emotionally exhausting divorce transformed her into a passionate advocate for others navigating similar circumstances, as the co-founder of the platform Being There Got Out. But what struck me most about our conversation was Lisa's deep understanding of relationships. So, whether you are in one, supporting someone who is, or simply want to become a better communicator or a better partner, I believe you will find wisdom, hope, and practical insights in this episode. Please welcome Lisa Johnson. Welcome to Good is What Makes You Feel Well, Mama Terra's podcast. Each week, we will explore topics that impact your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health through inspiring transformation stories. Here, you will find practical guidance and actionable strategies to apply in your daily life. I'm your host, Ana Rezende, author, health coach, and speaker. I'm here to help you protect your energy, strengthen your well-being, and thrive through life's transitions. Speaking of life transitions, I would love for you to go to Amazon and check my book, Living Your Best Life in College, which I wrote as a guide for young adults transitioning from high school to college. If you are a student, a parent, a teacher, or someone who cares about well-being, this book might be a game changer. Now, let's dive in and discover all the different ways you can feel well. Vista transcende, levita. Hello, Lisa.
Hi.
Welcome to Good is What Makes You Feel Well.
Thank you.
For us to start our conversation, I would like to ask you what, in this moment of your life, makes you feel well?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things, but I think the best part is being in a healthy relationship with somebody that really makes me laugh because that has such ripple effects on the rest of my world, especially in terms of my parenting to my kids and modeling a healthy relationship and good role models, and especially the difference from what it was more than 10 years ago.
I love that. I love that. Healthy relationships are so, so important. And I think we don't talk about this enough.
We talk about red flags, but how often do we talk about green flags? And
Hmm.
our pop culture has romanticizes all kinds of unhealthy relationship role models, but where are the ones that show like this is calm, this is good, and here's why?
Yeah. Tell me how this whole concept, now you said being in a healthy relationship is a place that makes you feel really well. How this concept of wellness or feeling well has evolved throughout your life.
Oh boy. So my life is long so far, but I was actually married for 18 years and with my ex-husband for 20 years. And I think one of the mistakes that I take responsibility for was I never really thought about what kind of relationship I really wanted. And I think a pattern in my life was allowing myself to be led into relationships and putting others first without even being clear on what I myself wanted for whatever reason. And so I was in this relationship because I thought on paper my ex sounded good and it seemed like a good idea. He was 7 years older than me, and I think he was in the market for a wife when I had just come back from living overseas, backpacking through Europe, having this kind of wild, free life. And I had this idea in my head that somehow I should like be responsible and settle down. I was like 22 years old. But I
Wow.
thought, I should grow up, which is ridiculous looking back now, especially as my daughter is now 22. So I got into this relationship, and only after getting out of it 20-ish years later, when I decided to date for the first time and doing like online dating, which I had completely missed during my marriage, that I thought, let me put together an online dating profile. And I don't know how I came up with this idea, but I made a list of the qualities that I liked in other people, especially in terms of like who I enjoyed being around. And so part of the things that I came up with or things on my list were somebody who has at least two things that they're passionate about that have nothing to do with me. Because my ex-husband would make me feel like if he was unhappy, that it's somehow my responsibility. It seemed like he didn't have his own interests. Everything was tied to the relationship. So I didn't want that anymore. I wanted someone who was capable of doing their own thing. I wanted somebody who enjoyed moving furniture because I love going to yard sales or tag sales and getting stuff. And as you could probably see from the background, I'm kind of artsy. So I like playing around with seeing how things looked. And my ex used to hate that. And he'd be like, stop churning, stop moving things around. So I thought if I found someone who enjoyed moving furniture, that they might be more open-minded and would let me just test things out and see how things, looked in the house and not be so attached to things having to be a certain way. I also put on the list that I was looking for somebody who volunteered because I have always been really involved with volunteering. A big thing for me were libraries. I'm still on the board of my
Mm.
library, but I started a book sale. Probably now it's been about 20 something years ago that I poured myself into twice a year and loved it. It became like this big community event. So I thought somebody else who enjoyed volunteering could understand the joy that comes with giving to others and being involved in community building and
Mm.
literacy. What else was on the list? Someone who had close long-term relationships with other people. Not that they had to
Mhm.
be close to everyone in their family, because certainly there's reasons why that's not like that, but who was capable of having deep connections to others. And then I think there were probably a couple other, I think I said good social skills, but I remember that the last thing on the list was a dry sense of humor. But I thought, I know, like I'm never going to meet someone with that. But my dad has a dry sense of humor and he's so funny. And so as I put the list together, I never realized that that list was completely not anything like my ex-husband. And I thought, how did this happen? How did I spend half my life with someone that wasn't even my type? And so my friend said, go on Match.com. I was just like, ooh, this is going to be so cool. And other friends were saying, I'm going to live vicariously through you. So I put the profile up, and within, I don't know, 3 weeks, my partner Chris came along, and now we actually today's our 10 and a half year anniversary. And it's
Wow.
completely different relationship. Like from the beginning, it was just easy and light and fun. And we started off as a couple, and then we developed this business together that's based on our own experiences. And now it's just exploding. So, yeah, I guess that hopefully answers your question.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? So, what do you think made you stay that long in the relationship?
I mean, that's interesting because there's a number of reasons why people stay in unhappy and unhealthy relationships. Part of it might have been a line that I now look back on as grooming behavior. My ex was
Mm,
older than me. I looked to him. I thought he had really good judgment. I thought he was really smart. And so he would say things sometimes that I just sort of believed without questioning them. And one of the lines
mm,
was, relationships are hard. And so by
mm,
saying relationships are hard, whenever things made me feel really uncomfortable or something was wrong, and I'd question it, he'd be like, well, that's just part of how relationships are. Just relationships are hard. And so over time, his behavior, he would do things that were completely unacceptable. But I think in my mind, the dynamic in our relationship was that he's right. He used to say that because my background, like I love to travel and I'm like a little more carefree. He'd say, "Well, I'm the one who's more deliberate, more serious, and I make better decisions than you. So you need someone like me to ground you." And I believe that for a long
mm,
time. So I think that was a big part of why I stayed because I respected him, and in my head I was like, "Oh, this is normal." Because I had
mm,
been with him so long. Plus, we had children together. And once you have children together, it becomes very, very difficult to think of leaving. And then another thing was, and I discovered this term after getting out of my marriage, but there's something called lying by omission. And that's a form of
mm,
emotional abuse where someone is withholding information from you, and because you don't know what actually is happening, you can't have agency or make choices about your own life because you don't know. You don't you know
mm.
you can't make those big decisions. And that had been happening the entire time. And I found that out again during the divorce process. I discovered things that showed that he was soliciting other women pretty much the entire time. On our honeymoon, he was drafting personal ads about himself as if he were single, and that happened through the whole relationship. So finding out at the end that the person I had been with for all those years was living a double life was really devastating. So again, it comes
Wow.
back to often not understanding and not knowing exactly what's going on because in our day to day, we did not generally fight. We got along really well. He was very affectionate to the outside world. Everybody was like, it's a great relationship. I never thought that I would ever get a divorce either. And it was kind of astonishing when it first started unraveling and I discovered the levels of deceit that I'd been living with, that I was just like, oh my gosh, like it just became more painful to stay than to leave. But I think for a long time, I truly thought he was my best friend. And certainly, hindsight's 2020 with red flags. You're like, yeah, that was always kind of strange, but we make excuses and that's human nature.
Hmm. And what was eye-opening for you then?
At the end of the relationship,
Hmm.
well, so I think the big thing that was like, what, I was discovering that there were pictures of a very young woman that were on top of some papers on his desk, and immediately feeling like something in my gut was wrong. At the time he was 50. I used to teach high school, and these pictures, which weren't sexual, but they were questionable. I just knew that something was really, really wrong. And so when I confronted him about it, he wasn't home at the time. He was out getting an oil change or something that lasted 2 hours. Everything always lasted longer than it should. And I confronted him. He would not admit who this person was. And I felt sicker and sicker to my stomach. And then when I finally got it out of him. He said, that's my girlfriend. We've never met before. I met her over Spotify. She lives in Germany. I'm completely in love with her, and I'm going to move her to America and set her up in one of my dad's apartments." And I was just like, that moment was like, I completely, this relationship is over. I don't know how I could ever respect this person's judgment because this is so completely crazy. We have these two kids, one of whom was a teenager. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, and he's just talking as if this is totally normal. And, I love you too, but I got to figure out how to make this work. And I was like, I'm done. This is crazy. And then it was another 2 years before actually getting out.
Then once you started your divorce process, then you discovered all the other things.
Yeah, I mean, there were hints of things, and then I discovered all kinds of things. I mean, it was like before the divorce, actually, those couple of years are where I kept discovering more and more and more and being
Mm.
like, this is insane. I don't know who I was actually living with for half my life, nearly 2 decades, and I have to plan my exit and I have to plan it very carefully because I'm rooted in the community. We have two kids. They've been in school. I was like the PTA president. Like I said, I was super involved with my library and events and very rooted where we were. And I thought, there's no way that I could afford a $10,000 divorce, and where are we going to live and what's going to happen? And the divorce ended up taking a year and costing $100,000, which I say I'm going to be paying back forever. And then I spent a total of about 10 years in court with him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. So I think it's important for us to talk about the red flags and then we can talk about all the green flags
Okay.
later.
Okay.
Because, well, that is so common. You know what's funny? I have been seeing this happening with younger girls. I
Hmm.
have a 19-year-old daughter, and throughout high school, I was seeing that happening with her friends, with the boyfriends. And I always was the one telling them, this is not how it is supposed to be. He doesn't have agency over your clothes, over where you go, over your friends. Because I was seeing those red flags on those young people's relationships. So my daughter is she is really aware because I'm always talking about those things. Not that it cannot happen with her, absolutely can. But I think it's important for us, like in all ages, just to make women aware that there are red flags. We can see through the lines. Yeah, we need to be aware.
Yeah.
So
And
tell me, what do you think are the big red flags?
okay, so I hope I'm not offending you, but I do want to say that this is not a gender issue. It's a human
Oh,
issue.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that
Absolutely,
also, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, young men and young women, in studies it's shown that there's very similar levels of different types of abuse, especially emotional and
Mm-hmm,
verbal and even physical abuse between teenagers. And
mm-hmm,
I think our society makes it seem as if a guy who slaps a girl, like that's awful, but girls can slap guys and it's
mm-mm.
like not, somehow it's not as big of a deal.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
We are
we
on the same page, yeah.
yeah, we work with men and women all over the world, many different countries, not just America. And some of our male victims are the most extreme cases. And I think part of that comes from social expectations and shame in not being able to talk about things like this. So, in terms of red flags, especially with young people, I'm completely on the same page, especially from being a high school English teacher. We need to teach young people what is okay and what is not okay. And I think boundaries, you hear the word all the time, but translating it to things in their lives that they can relate to. For example, texting. If somebody is texting you and you feel like if you don't respond immediately,
Mm,
they're going to be upset with you, that's a problem.
Yes.
If you don't respond immediately and they get upset with you or they act like you're doing something wrong, that's a red flag. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not just with romantic relationships, but with friendships too. You feel like you cannot just do whatever you have to do because someone's going to be mad at you or you're going to disappoint them or they expect something from you. You need to keep an eye on that. Like you need to pause and say, why am I feeling this way? This is
Mm-hmm.
not a good feeling. I need to question why I'm doing this and whether this is a good person to have in my life, because that's already starting you off with the wrong dynamic. Another thing that I think women in general tend to do is like I did, we kind of go along with things. So, for example, when somebody asks you out on a date, let's say, let's just pretend it's like a guy asking a girl, and the guy says, "Where do you want to go?" And you say, "Oh, it doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want to do is fine." You're already now establishing a foundation that you don't care, like your opinion is minimized and you're giving your authority to somebody else. I'm not saying that's bad, just saying you need to pay attention to the times that you don't say, this is what I want. Like to pause and think, what do I feel and what do I want? And again, that was something I didn't do. I mean, I knew what foods I liked and all kinds of things like that, but I kind of let other people choose. And sometimes being easygoing, it seems like a good quality, but in relationships, it's actually not healthy to always kind of go along and say, well, I'll do whatever everybody else wants. Often we're conditioned by our families, our own families of origin, that kind of dynamic. But it's something to pay attention to for sure, especially young people. So make
Mm-hmm.
sure you think about what do you like, and if someone says, "What do you want to do?" you answer, "This is what I would like to do."
Mm-hmm.
Another
Absolutely.
another thing that I like to say is good for, let's say, when you're dating someone and it's early in the process, is to set up a boundary where, let's say, you have a plan to get together again, and then during your date, you say, "Oh, by the way, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do it. Like I can't see you at this next time on Friday, let's say, and see what they do. Do they accept it and say, all right, well, we can do something another time, or do they not accept the no and say, well, what are you doing? Well, oh, you don't, someone's sick, like, can I come over? Can I help? Can I do like make sure that they respect when you say no, just for little things like watch the response. If they can respect that you can't do something or that you're saying no, that's a good sign. That's normal. But if they're pushing back and they need more information and you have to justify yourself, that's not a good sign. So these are all like very subtle hints to pay attention to in terms of red flags. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, and then there's bigger things like not allowing you to be with your friends or
Right.
not giving you space to be with your family or doing other things. And those are like kind of big red flags that I think it's important for those young people to know because now that they have their phones and they can text all the time, I see that anxiety when they send the message that they don't hear back from them. Like my daughter, she has been like, Mom, so and so, if I don't get back like immediately, she keeps just texting and texting. So I think for them, this instant response that they have with the phones just brings more and more anxiety around and kind of masks the red flags, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they have the ability that we didn't have in our, I mean, I didn't have in my, we didn't
Yeah.
have cell phones. So we had to wait for the phone call to come and we didn't know who was calling. That is
Right.
another thing. So we had to pick up. So those are all little things and big things that I think it's very, very important to talk about.
I think also somebody, like you said, for us, like our generation, we had to wait. But one thing that unhealthy people tend to do is they rush you into getting committed or being in a more serious relationship where there's no time to wait. Like you can't even figure out how you feel, but they're like, no, we gotta, go be, I don't even know what the word is, but like be together exclusively or get married or move in together when it's like you don't even know them. And that's how I think also a lot of online scams happen is because people connect with others and then they think it's some intimate relationship and then all of a sudden they're scammed out of all this money because they thought it was, their soulmate when who knows what was on the other end of that.
If you are enjoying this episode but don't yet understand the multidimensionality of health, I created a free ebook to help you. It's a simple yet insightful few page book you can read in less than 10 minutes. The ebook link is in the show notes. Now, back to the episode. Yeah, that is a really important thing too. And it just happened with one of my daughter's friends.
Oh my gosh.
She met this guy online and she was just 18 and the boy was 19. And he was going to a boot camp in the military. And then he said, we'd better get married. And they had been talking for 3 months online
Uh-huh.
and she got married.
She got married?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it is a thing that is going on.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a very important red flag, like urging you to make that decision without thinking it through.
Yeah, in an online relationship, you don't even have opportunities to spend actual time together. It's
Yeah,
like that's a
absolutely.
stranger.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's happening all the time,
Yeah,
more and more.
scary.
Yeah, it is so scary. Any other red flags you think?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I mean, it really depends on the situation, but I think the main thing, because there are so many different details for different people, is to pay attention to your body. And if something feels wrong in your gut or in your throat, usually those are the two places. If something is just like it's not right, you have to pay attention. Oh, I actually thought of one more thing. So we often hear about love at first sight. Like you see
Mm,
someone and there's this instant chemistry. So I've learned that that's actually a fear response. So when we're afraid, our body floods with adrenaline. And so often when someone sees someone for the first time and they feel all this adrenaline, we romanticize it and say that's my soulmate. But often it's because there's something familiar that we unconsciously don't even know, but it's frightening us and we mislabel it and it becomes like, oh, it's really it's chemistry. Like again, that's so fast, that's a stranger, you don't know them. So be conscious, like if you're feeling all this instant like really strong emotions, that's a red flag.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one. And I love when you said about the body,
Hmm.
because the intelligence of the body is something we need to respect.
Right.
So the gut feeling is so, so important because the gut is our second brain.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the throat, because the throat chakra is blocked if we feel something here. So we need to speak up, right?
Yeah, and also the throat, we think symbolically, and I've seen it with all of myself in court and a lot of our clients who are dealing with court or being in these difficult relationships, they lose their voice. You
Mm,
literally cannot speak when you are really stressed out about something.
yeah. Yeah. So listen to the body and pay attention to all those small and big red flags.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about the green flags now, the good stuff.
All right. So, and I'm going to refer to my own relationship because that might have been, well, that wasn't the only healthy relationship I had, but that's the most recent. So, my partner Chris and I, like I said, we met on Match and we wrote back and forth for a few days. It turned out that we actually lived literally 12 minutes away from each other.
Wow.
One thing we did was instead of dragging it on and just doing this virtual thing, we decided to meet pretty quickly. to see how we felt. And so we decided to have lunch together. And well, one thing actually I should say was while we were writing to each other back and forth within those first few days, Chris asked for my phone number. And I said, I don't want to give you my phone number because I want to see what it's like when we actually meet. And he respected that. So that was a
Mm.
boundary. And that was a green flag because he said, that's no problem. I'll just see you on Friday. So we got together for lunch. I remember I walked in and Chris is like 6'3". He's got all this like lots of white hair and he had these wire rim glasses. He was a lot heavier than he is now. He was carrying the Wall Street Journal under his armpit. He had the wire rim glasses were down like this and he was like super preppy. And I was wearing my skull shirt, my wild hair, like thigh high boots and steampunk, jeans and stuff. And we looked at each other and we were just like,
Oh no.
no. So it was not love at first sight. We just thought, uh-uh. And but we had been writing back and forth and Chris, I'm a writer, Chris is also a writer. And like his voice came through his writing. And I remember he was so funny and clever. And so I thought, all right, there's no chemistry here. And then when he started talking, not that I should talk, he talks really, really fast. And I thought it was like a little bit effeminate because I was like, oh, this sounds like one of these marketing guys. He talks so fast. But let's just have lunch and let's just see, because I know we'll have a good time. Like I just know it, but there's no love connection. So we sat down and the next 2.5 hours flew by and we're chit-chatting and Chris, both of us tend to be like very enthusiastic and we gesticulate a lot. And I realized as I was sitting across from him, he was talking about football, which I have zero interest in, that he's super passionate about. Oh my God, and it's football season now, so it's just crazy. And he was in a fraternity. I thought, oh my God, I've never dated a frat boy. Like, this is an absolute no. But he was talking about other things and he was so enthusiastic. So at some point during lunch, I was looking at him going, this is so crazy. But I feel like I'm talking to the male version of me. Like, he's so full of life and lively and chatty and funny. And after the meal, we walked outside and another green flag for me, especially because my marriage had been over for 2 years, but I'd really just gotten my ex physically out of the house. Like I wasn't looking for anything serious. I just wanted to have fun and things to be light. I didn't realize, but I didn't want anyone to touch me. And I don't know if I gave off signals or not, but he did not try to hug me, kiss me, shake my hand. We just walked out. He said, now can I have your phone number? And I said, yes. So gave him the phone number, said goodbye, walked to the car. And I remember for the first time in my life, I sat in the car and paused and thought, how do I feel right now?
Mm.
And then, like, I actually feel good. Like, I had a really good time. I would do it again. So it wasn't that someone else was pressuring me or that he kissed me and I had to kiss him back or even shaking hands or hugging. It was just like he gave me the space, both emotionally and physically. And I got in tune with my own feelings. It sounds so cheesy as a 40-something-year-old woman, but it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like I've never thought about how I feel after basically another first date. So then after that, you know, he almost, this is a whole other thing, but he almost got friend zoned, but then he he didn't. And there was a lot of chemistry. And as we started dating, I also set another boundary and said that I felt like I didn't want him to say, I love you first. If we
Mm.
continued our relationship, that I know myself and I know that most of my relationships, the other person has said it first and then I say it because I almost feel like I have to. So I said, I need you to give me space. And then when I'm ready, I'm going to say it first. And he respected that. He had a hard time respecting it, but he did. And so when I said it, it was like really, really special because it was like I knew how I felt and he let me feel what I felt and he stayed patient. So those were some really big green flags. Another thing that I love is the ability to communicate effectively. So I remember Chris and I were having an argument about something pretty early in our relationship, maybe in the first few months. And as I was talking, he goes, wait a second. And he took out a legal pad and he goes, I said, what are you doing? He goes, I just want to make sure that I listen to what you're saying and I don't miss anything. And I want to have the ability to respond to the different points you're making because I talk a lot and I talk fast. So he said, I want to write stuff down so I don't forget, but I don't want to interrupt you. And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Mind
Yeah.
blowing.
Yeah. So that felt really good. It was like he respected my need to go on and on and on for a little while, not interrupt me, and still pay attention to what I was saying and then comment on it. So it was like we were able to take turns. And that basically paved the way for a lot of this relationship where it's just like, hmm, it
Yeah.
feels good. Like it feels fair. It feels respectful. I'm not being pushed to do things. So those are some green flags that from my own relationship that I hope other people might be able to use.
Yeah. And communication is the foundation.
Yes.
So no assumptions, no guesses. Yeah. Communication is really, really so important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you think about how many conflicts happen from miscommunication.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
Ah, that is so awesome. That is really, really great. And then you mentioned that you guys now have a business together.
Mhm.
So how do you help your clients?
So our company is called Been There, Got Out, and we are high conflict divorce strategists specializing in something called legal abuse. And that's
Mm,
where an ex is basically using the legal system to wear us down and bleed us dry financially. So that's what I dealt with for my 10 years in court. And that's what our clients are dealing with. Even if they're not in the legal system, there tends to be a threat of like, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to take you back to court. I'm going to take your money. I'm going to take the kids. I'm going to leave you homeless. So they live with this constant sense of dread of like, oh my gosh, if I'm not perfect, if I don't do what they want, they're going to ruin my life. And they're already ruining my life. And they're ruining my chance of having a new healthy relationship because they're terrorizing my new partner as well. And so they really do need a lot of support. So we do strategy sessions with them. We have a weekly legal abuse support group where we do the very unusual thing in the domestic violence space of blending our male and female clients together because, like I said, abuse is a human issue. And I think it's really important for women to hear the male perspective and to understand those challenges, and also for men to realize that women feel the same way. Like we all are protective parents and care about our kids and want what's best for them. And we're all dealing with a very difficult ex. And so I absolutely love seeing our clients support each other through this long process, and they make their own friendships and they stay in touch. And it's just wonderful. It's really, I think abuse, unfortunately, has been very polarized in terms of like men versus women and all of that, and women versus men. And we really don't agree with that because, well, good parents, healthy parents want the same thing. So there's no reason to do that, to fight each other. So we have our group, we have a book. It's called Been There, Got Out: Toxic Relationships, High Conflict Divorce, and How to Stay Sane Under Insane Circumstances is our first book that came out in 2023. And then our next book is coming out in January 26th, and it's called When Your Ex Turns the Kids Against You. Since
mm,
unfortunately, that is one of the most common things that we see in our community. Again, like they want to take your money, your home, and your kids. And so again, bringing our clients together and helping them deal with that, both in the legal system and especially out of the legal system, has been a big focus of ours. We also have a course. We're going to do several of them because we teach a number of different things. But the most important one is what we just talked about. It's on strategic communication, and it's called How to Communicate with Your Ex Without Destroying Your Case or Losing Your Mind. Because communication with these difficult people who we got away from can be traumatizing. Many of our clients, just hearing the ding of a notification, again, everything tightens up. They freak out. It ruins their entire day. They're living in a constant state of fear. So we teach a lot about how to effectively communicate, turn the power dynamic around, build the foundation of a powerful case for court purposes, for mediation. We teach how to put together targeted documentation. So if they have a lawyer, or even if they're representing themselves, they understand what the court cares about, especially in custody issues or restraining orders. We teach big thing, proper presentation to whether you're in court or you're presenting to a custody evaluator like a guardian ad litem or attorney for the child. Things like that we do a lot with. And then we have this big course coming out on alienation too that goes along with the book. So we do a lot of different things. We have a podcast. We've got over 300 interviews in the past few years with all kinds of professionals relating to issues like trauma and law and mental health issues. And we have a YouTube channel. So very active social media presence as well.
So interesting.
Thank you.
So when have you guys started all that? And how did you discover that that was your calling?
So years ago, maybe it was like 2017, 2018. Like I said, I was in the legal system for years and years and years. And my background is in education. And so I couldn't go back to work because I was always in court because I was representing myself for 7.5 years. And so then when the pandemic hit, actually right before the pandemic hit, I thought I want to write a book about this crazy experience. I had actually done a book way back in 2003 that did really, really well on a totally different topic. It's called Rite of Passage Tales of Backpacking Around Europe because I was a backpacker.
Okay.
Yeah, and I lived in Europe and taught in Hungary, post-communist Eastern Europe. And so that book did really well. And so when I was ready to write the next book, I thought it's going to be so easy. But then everything had changed because social media and the publishing world is totally different. And so I was told, the divorce thing, you need to make yourself an expert and you need to build a social media platform. So my background in teaching really helped me because I would do things that I did with my teenagers in the classroom where I put quotes up or I would try to start people to engage in conversations about stuff with the justice system, different articles that related to things that I was dealing with or domestic violence. And so it started growing and growing and growing. And then when, Chris has been through his own abusive marriage as well. And so I thought, wouldn't it be cool to do a book together because we have both the male and female perspective on domestic violence. So we started putting a proposal together. And then this one agent that we spoke to said, you know what? Your people, they don't want a book. They need you. So you guys should really start thinking about doing some kind of interactive course. Then COVID hit. And then we
Mm.
learned how to use Zoom. And that's when we really were like, oh, maybe we should niche down because when we first started, we were like, we can do everything with toxic relationships. But as I kept spending year after year in court and, it was extremely frustrating, but I kept having lots of victories. It was enforcement that was a problem. And then in 2021, I argued at the appellate level, the higher court level, myself. And not only one, but my case got published as case law, which is like a really big deal for an attorney. And it's unheard of for a pro se or self-represented litigant. So that was like all of a sudden all this authority. And then also I gave live testimony that helped pass something called Jennifer's Law. And so my state of Connecticut became the third to expand our legal definition of domestic violence to include all that invisible abuse, also known as coercive control. So those two things happened within 6 months of each other. And so people were contacting us from all over the world. We went to Barbados and trained attorneys and domestic violence advocates. And we
Wow.
were like, let's really focus on legal abuse. And I had just discovered that term. It wasn't out there in the world. Now it's out there. I feel like we were like some of the first people to really publicize it. But we decided it was about 4.5 years ago to start our weekly legal abuse support group. And I thought, this is what I'm dealing with. Let's just see if we get two people to join it, then that'll be good. And I think the first week we got like 12 people from all over the world. And I was like,
Wow.
we are onto something. And then Chris got his certification as a high conflict divorce coach. And we basically like put our little shingle out on Instagram about like now we're doing coaching and it's been busy ever since. Like
Wow.
every single day, this is what we do all
Unbelievable.
day, every day. Yeah, and like I said, our clients, men and women from all over the world. Like we just got a client, a man in India. talking to someone in Canada today, like just all over different time
Wow.
zones. We always say the laws are different, but the issues are the same. And so we don't give legal advice, but basically what I teach is the art of persuasion from the bottom up. People always say, "Oh, the system has to change, system is broken." But I found in my own experience that when you learn what you need to do to operate effectively in the court and especially out of court, like through negotiations and mediation and writing, you can succeed. It happened so many times for me besides the case law. So we teach a lot with our clients of how to represent themselves successfully through the art of persuasion and as well as case law, but persuasion is the element that really helps.
Wow, that is so amazing. So tell me, what is the definition of legal abuse then?
So legal abuse, there's different types, but that's when somebody is using the legal system to basically destroy you, financially, emotionally. It takes you away from your ability. It's a form of coercive control because you cannot live as a free citizen because you are always in court. That takes away, well, first of all, if you have a lawyer, it costs tons of money in legal fees. It takes away from your ability to work because you're always having to take time off from work. I know that's why I said I couldn't go back to work because I was constantly dropping everything because I had to go to court or respond to my ex's motions. It harms your ability to parent. It can isolate you from people because nobody really understands and it just consumes your life. And there's three emotions that I found I felt and that a lot of our clients feel. The first is a sense of rage. Every day I would wake up and it was like I didn't even think about my ex-husband. I wasn't even angry at him. I was so angry at the system. The system that I was turning to for relief was making things worse because they were
Mm,
failing to enforce their own orders, which was emboldening my ex to keep abusing me and the system itself. And so it was just maddening. And the second emotion was a sense of injustice. Again, like this is the justice system and this is what's being allowed. Like, why are they rewarding someone for breaking the law? And the last emotion was despair because it felt like it was never going to end. And so many people that we meet with are like, this is never going to stop. My ex keeps getting away with this stuff. And we say our clients don't lose, they just give up too soon. But to understand this is going to take a long time and there's nothing you can really do to make it end fast, but it's basically how do you learn what we call the marathon mindset? Not just that this is going to be long, but how do you live your life and live a good life as much as possible while in the throes of this terrorist attack with someone using the legal system to do it? And then I don't know if you want me to get a little more in detail about the different types of legal abuse, but yeah, it's just overwhelming.
yeah, so he knew how the system worked, and then he kept you kind of trapped within the law. Is that what it means?
Okay, so there's two types of legal abuse. One is often called vexatious litigation or frivolous litigation, and that's where one person keeps filing motions, like trying to change, child support or any kind of support or custody or whatever it is, where you're just like, oh my gosh, like what's next? And you have to keep, again, going to court, hiring attorneys to deal with all of these motions. Legal abuse is also called paper abuse or stalking through the court, also judicial terrorism, because that's what it feels like.
Mm.
So there you're basically responding to motions. Mine was the other side of it, where I had to keep filing motions, and then my ex would fight me on them all because he wasn't complying with our agreement and court
Mm.
orders. So all of these years, like we had an initial agreement, he would not comply with it. So then I had to go back, and my lawyer told me on the last day, like when we finally settled, which took about a year, he said, your ex is not going to comply with this agreement and you can't afford me anymore because he's going to continue to financially decimate you. So you need to go pro se and you need to start establishing a paper trail. And I'm here, but I'm going to get you a paralegal if you need me. You have to do this yourself. That's the only way you can do it. And three out of four litigants, and maybe the number is higher now with AI, but they have to go pro se because we just can't afford it. So, I did my paper trail and I went back and I got like another set of really good orders that had to do with modifications in child support and alimony and stuff for our kids' college, which we had also agreed to split, that he decided, no, I'm not going to do anything. So I got him for that. And then it was a matter of actually getting him to do what he was supposed to be doing. So we'd go back to court. They'd say that he had to listen to the orders. Nothing would happen. Go back to court again and again and again and again.
I
And
see. I
about a
see.
hundred court appearances.
Okay, so legal abuse is why my understanding is that he's not doing what he agreed
Right.
to do in your guys' settlement.
Right. And then thereafter, judges, we had multiple judges because it was so many years. They would order him to do different things and he just wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So he was found in contempt 5 times. Nothing happened. So then I started learning what to ask for because finding someone in contempt doesn't do anything for you. You need what are the consequences of that contempt? And so I learned to start asking for things and I started getting the things that I was asking for. And that's where I started really feeling triumphant because I was like, all right, it's not just like, help me, Your Honor. It's like, Your Honor, this is what I want and this is why I'm entitled to it. And then even writing up things that were signed into order because it helped
Mm,
make the judge's job easier.
yeah. And people don't have that knowledge. Regular people don't have.
Where are you going to get it from?
And it took you 10 years to learn all that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Through the
I
hard.
learned it along the way. It didn't take full 10 years because I was always doing well, but I didn't understand what was happening exactly. And I kept thinking things should have happened a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand how to more effectively negotiate with my ex to try to stay out. I mean, we did stay out of the legal system. Our initial divorce was really through mediation and then threats. And then we finally got it done. But then it was just court, 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 post judgment.
Wow.
Yeah,
It is a lot.
it is.
Yeah. So I am sorry that you have to go through all that, but I think that gave you purpose
Yeah.
and
I,
knowledge to do what
right.
you do now, right?
I always say I got my best education in the trenches.
Yeah. And that is how it works
Yeah, and
usually.
also going through that keeps me grounded because I know deeply those feelings of rage and injustice and despair. And so that connects us to our clients on a very deep level. So when they're going through it, it's like, I know, I feel you. I deeply feel you. I felt the same way, but I can assure you that is not going to stay this way, but you're going to need support big time. And it's hard because a lot of our clients tend to be very well educated, successful professionals, and they're
Mm,
beating themselves up for number one, getting into one of these relationships, which affect 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men on average, at least. And so also, just because you're successful in other areas of your life, that also makes you less likely to ask for help, we found need
hmm.
help, like this is the time to get help because if you're as okay as you are, that's going to again have those ripple effects on your children. If you're not okay, your family's going to be harmed. So that's why it's so important to get help and to ask for it and to not be ashamed because it is such a huge problem.
Yeah, I
So common.
know. Yeah. And I am a child of a divorce too. How are your kids now?
They're good. They're so my son is 25 and my daughter's 22. Our story is really, really complex. There's a lot of abandonment stuff with their dad where he kind of just, when the marriage was over, it was almost like a package deal, like he just left. And he also didn't stick to our agreement in terms of taking his visitation. So I was dealing with the opposite of what many of our clients deal with. They want to keep their kids away from that person. I wanted him to spend more time with them. So I was dealing with like, where did he go? Like just because he and I ended, like, why wasn't he there for our kids? The kids really were upset and having mixed emotions for a long time. And they're in very limited touch with him, but they are in touch a little bit. And to me, it's unfortunate, but they have their own relationship with him and that he has to be accountable for his behavior to them that has nothing to do with me. I'm really close to my dad. My dad and uncle are identical twins and they're 85 years old now. My dad was the person who really got me through all of this. He
Mm.
helped me with all of the motions and legalese and helping me prepare stuff and spending entire weekends with me as I would practice what I would say in court. Like I could have never done it without my dad. And so it's sad for me to think that my kids don't have someone like that. They have other people in their lives that are significant, but it's just, it's just shocking that this happened, but you just do the best you can and they're both doing really, really well.
That is so good. It's good to know. Hopefully, they do understand everything that you went through and how important it is to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, actually, we tried to shield them from whatever I was going through because they have to be able to live their own lives. Like for me, it
Hmm.
was so central, but I wanted them to just be like, in my head, I thought if I can't make him be a good parent, the least I can do is make him honor his financial obligation to these kids
Hmm.
because he was fighting having to contribute to their college education. I have a master's degree. I'm an educator myself, and I was just like, don't you dare deny them of their ability to have an education and have better lives. And so that was the big thing that I was really fighting for. It was like, you're not going to take away their ability to get an education. So
Yeah,
it worked out and I don't know if they know as much as, all the stuff I went through, but they don't need to.
they don't need to. No,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 good. That is a lot. But yeah, it's good that you're doing this work. I think it's so needed, and you were seeing that it's so needed because of the amount of clients that are showing up for your
Yeah.
courses and stuff. It is so needed.
Yeah, and I love it. I feel like I was made for this. Like I
Mm-hmm.
never dreamed that this is what I'd be doing, but it's so rewarding. And we have a hashtag called From Puddle to Ninja because a lot of people we
Mm.
meet are just like, oh, I get it." The ex's voice is still in their head and they're just like scared of everything. And to see them transform, especially mostly from learning strategic communication, that fear goes away and they start realizing reality and that they don't need to be scared and their ex doesn't have all the power that they've given to that person in their head. Their body changes, their faces change, their health improves. I mean, it's such an honor to be part of that journey with them.
Yeah, beautifully said. Beautifully said. If somebody listening to us wants to get your help, how do they find you?
Super easy. Just Google been there, got out. So, like I held up before, our book is called Been There, Got Out. Our website's Been There, Got Out. Our social media is Been There, Got Out. Like Instagram's my home base, so it's just little underscores between Been There, Got Out. And podcast, YouTube channel, just Been There, Got Out. And it's just Chris and I. We don't have like a team of people. And we always respond to email. So if people come to our site, there's a little button. We have like a free discovery call, which is a Zoom meeting with the two of us where we listen and find out if and how we can help you moving forward. Yeah, but very, very easy to find us.
Yeah, so I'll have all the links in the show notes so people can find your website, your YouTube channel, and Instagram. Yeah, I hope you're able to help lots and lots of people because this work is so needed.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
I know. I know.
but it's true.
Yeah,
It is
it is
true.
what it is.
Yeah, so it's good that we have good people doing this work.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a pleasure. Is there anything else that you would like to say that I did not ask?
Yeah, I think that for me, like I said, I was in that relationship for 20 years of my life. And in my head, well, my ex made me feel this way, but it was also in my head. I thought if I break up this family, I'm going to ruin my kids' lives. And that's what kept me there for a really long time was thinking that they won't have an intact family and they'll be destroyed when it was actually the opposite. So that was the best thing I could have done for them because like I started this whole conversation with now I can model a healthy relationship to them. They've had their own healthy relationships with friends. They've learned boundaries. I feel like kids in these situations also because they're dealing with a parent who often is a problem, they develop social and emotional skills that are far beyond what their peers have to deal with. So it kind of puts them ahead in a lot of ways. My kids will say things to me. They're like, "Mom, you should have, you shouldn't do that because that's not healthy." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I wish I knew that at their age." That could have saved a lot of time for me. So it's really, really scary, the thought of leaving a marriage or a relationship that you've committed your life to, but the air is so much better on the other side. It is so much better to get out of an unhealthy relationship. It would take a long time to talk about the reasons why, but just know it could be like being standing on the edge of a high dive board and being terrified of jumping. But when you jump, it's just, you'll be so glad that you did it. But you got
Yeah,
to make sure you get the right support and keep yourself safe.
absolutely. And like you said, I think a very common reason that people stay is because of kids. And there is nothing better than modeling a healthy relationship for them.
Yep,
That's
that's true.
absolutely true. Yeah. Lovely. Thank you so much for this conversation. I hope it helps a ton of people.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me and thanks for letting me talk about a very uncomfortable topic for a lot of people.
I know. Yeah. And thank you for sharing it so openly and honestly. I
Yeah, you're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow the show. You can also share it with your friends, rate it, and write a review. Rates and reviews help the show go to the top ranks so more people can benefit from its message. See you in the next episode. Until then, remember, good is what makes you feel well.
Vista